Good evening. Our topic is usage of technology in scientific writing. Next. Let's talk about the abstract of this topic. It is the digital revolution in education. It is a full stream ahead and it is affecting more than just a classroom. Academic research is experiencing a high-tech makeover and it matters more than just most of us know. For an average person, the scholarly pursuits of when you realize the academic research impacts every aspect of our life, including the economy, medicine, and human behavior. Then it is much easier to swallow. Technology also removes the intimidation factor of students. As a student at the WF Online Graduation School of Business at Basin, Sue Ting Young used technology to collect data for the applied research required in her MBA program. For a student and young who have grown up around computers, it is much more initiative to navigate a software interface than to design research on a paper. And it is more accurate to boot. For Young, the experience also prepared her for her career as marketing research analyst at Neon Communication, where she uses the same techniques and technology every day. Next.
So to dive into the introduction of the topic, so basically the importance of writing in the job market cannot be overemphasized. Up to 2/3 of salaried jobs at large American companies require some kind of writing. And writing is a complex process that involves many skills, process, and strategies. It requires a codifiable medium to convey meaning and uses a vocabulary based on known conventions and rules of usage to create new ideas. Good writing is defined by clarity, accuracy, and logical thinking, among other characteristics. Students need to master writing skills to succeed in their education and as members of the workforce. The use of computers in learning processes is growing exponentially. However, information technology has changed the process of composition and the level of participation of the writer in writing activities to such an extent that the communicative functions of the internet and cell phones are the main reason why teens use these technologies. A recent study shows that more than 4 in 10 teens, that is 45% of the population, own or use both a computer and a cell phone. Access to this technology is at an all-time high, and speed of technological development has triggered considerable changes in the way people live daily. The education system is not exempted from emails to online classes. The use of computers is inevitable today and therefore omnipresent in school. Technology makes students' workloads much lighter. For example, with word processing software, the time students spend to type out an error-free assignment, composition, or term paper is greatly reduced. Corrections are easily made on the computer. In 1998, the Office of Technology Assessment reported there were approximately 5.8 million computers in schools across the US, or approximately one machine for every 9 students.
This is Ananya. I will be continuing the introduction. This ratio has grown over the years. There are different forms of communication technology. Those associated with the internet, now accessible through both computers and mobile phones, include electronic mail, email, instant messaging services, chat rooms, forums, social networking sites, interactive online gaming networks, and weblogs. Almost all American adolescents use the internet. 87% of teenagers own a cell phone and report that use of the internet was the most important technology in their lives, more important than television. However, these are worries that this trend is having a detrimental effect on students' writing skills. While the computer spell checker can help students make quick corrections on their writing activities, it can also cause deterioration in spelling ability, as students may no longer bother about their spelling since they can rely on the spell checker. Boyle argues that information technology may actually be making us stupid because computers take away from students much of the learning process.
Next. Scientific writing and its hallmarks. So, scientific writing is a technical form of writing that is designed to communicate scientific information to other scientists. Depending on the specific scientific genre, a journal article, a scientific poster, or a research proposal, for example, some aspects of the writing may change, such as its purpose, audience, or organization. Many aspects of scientific writing, however, vary little across these writing genres. Its primary audience is other scientists because of its intended audience, student oriented or general audience details, definitions, and explanations, which are often necessary in lab manuals or reports, are not terribly useful. Explaining general knowledge concepts or how routine procedures were performed actually tends to obstruct clarity, making the writing wordy and detract from its professional tone. Second, it is concise and precise. A goal of scientific writing is to communicate scientific information clearly and concisely. Flowery, ambiguous, wordy, and redundant language run counter to the purpose of writing. Third, it must be set within the context of other published work. Because science builds on and corrects itself over time, scientific writing must be situated in and reference the findings of previous work. This context serves variously as motivation for new work being proposed or the paper being written, as points of departure or congruence for new findings and interpretations, and as evidence for the author's knowledge and expertise in the field. Next slide. Writing about science and technology. The language of science and technology is one of the main reasons why some journalists are afraid of reporting in this area. In many cases, it is like listening to a foreign language which you cannot speak. You can overcome most problems by following simple rules. Scientific names and technical terms, sometimes called jargon, are necessary for scientists. It enables them to speak more accurately to one another about things they have in common. If a surgeon told his assistant to cut the big tube during an operation, all sorts of mistakes could happen. Instead, the surgeon might talk about a patient's aorta or vena cava so that there was no mistake. The kind of language is acceptable between doctors and nurses, but your ordinary readers and listeners will understand better if your story refers to the aorta as the main tube carrying blood out of the heart and the vena cava as one of the two main tubes carrying blood into the heart. Remember, you are the bridge between the scientists and the readers or listeners. Where possible, you should explain the jargon in language your audience will understand. To do this, you will need to understand the scientific terms yourself. Find out the simple meanings by asking the scientist concerned or your contacts, or look it up in a dictionary.
Next slide. Information technology and scientific writing. Developments in communication technology have triggered considerable language changes. According to Beisenbach, Lucas, and Weissenforth, the resultant variation in written language have raised concerns about the negative impact of this technology on language. Some language researchers argue that the deterioration is due to increased use in electronic communication. The lack of face-to-face interaction that sometimes characterizes this digital platform means that many contextual and nonverbal language cues may be lost, and it is questionable whether language maxims such as appropriateness, relevance, and formality level are still adhered to in electronic communication. However, research on the topic brings out some positive aspect of these technologies on language skills. For many teens, the ability to change, edit, and revise their text on the fly is one of the clearest advantages of writing on a computer. Nearly 6 in 10 teens say that edit and revise more when they write using a computer compared with them they write by hand. Whites, older teens, and those whose parents have higher levels of education are among the most likely to say that computers help them edit and revise more. Next slide. The language of email and short messaging service is an inherently informal communication system because it is associated with acronyms and changes in spelling norms. An analysis of emails and SMS messages of students in Malaysia revealed that some emails lack subject lines while others cram the entire message body into the subject line. Standard spelling, punctuation, and capitalization, which are some of the characteristics of the normal written language, were absent in the studied emails. Some emails users used SMS language in their messages. Lack of contact information in the signature, sloppy written message body, and other deviations found in the emails point to the fact that language used in the students' email was more informal and casual than the traditional letter writing language. This NetSpeak or shortened text-speak language register, which includes abbreviations like B4 is equal to B4, is being used in inappropriate context. Some major concerns on the negative impacts of new technologies on writing skills are listed below. Punctuation rules are affected. Emails and SMS are used for speed of communication, in which shortened sentences are commonly used to ease writing, thus making it prone to occasional errors and absence of punctuation rules.
Methodology and findings. The purpose of this paper is to review the impact of information technology on writing and discuss strategies for future trends in technology intensive writing that will ensure language development. While communication technologies play an important role in the present and future learning processes, efforts must be made to monitor its effect on writing skills of students. It is therefore vital to carefully understand the relationship between these new technologies and the writing activities of youths. To this end, two perception surveys on students and faculty were conducted at the end of the spring semester in 2012 in a 4-year public university, to which 50 students and 32 faculty members responded. The survey was collected through the university website. Next slide.
Yeah, you can.
Developments in communication technology have triggered considerable language changes. According to Bison-Back, Lucas, and Bison-Ford, the resultant variations in written language have raised concerns about the negative impact of this technology on language. Some language researchers argue that the deterioration is due to increased use in electronic communication. The lack of face-to-face interaction that sometimes characterizes this digital platform means that many contextual and nonverbal language cues may be lost, and it is questionable whether language maxims such as appropriateness, relevance, and formality level are still adhered to in electronic communication. The survey consisted of 9 statements for students and 9 statements for instruction. These statements of interest were associated with overall conceptions of writing and electronic communication. Next slide.
Data analysis was accomplished by using the arithmetic. Here we can see the formula of mean. Mean is equal to sigma x to the base of k divided by n. To measure the central tendency of the respondents, as shown, as shown, students and faculty were required to mark strongly agree SA, agree A, neutral N, disagree D, or strongly disagree SD in the response to the following statements. In the informal language and the shortcuts commonly used in the emails result in poor understanding of English and consequently poor writing skills. Next slide.
Surveys. Informal reading styles and short message systems are replacing proper capitalization, punctuation, and expression in work related writing. Text shortcuts and abbreviations are increasingly being used in formal English correspondence. Social network and chat groups spell the end of correct grammar and linguistic fluency. Increased use of internet destroys critical thinking and communication skills. Editing and spell checking of reports, executive summaries, and other professional correspondence are mainly done using computer aided devices. Incorporating graphics and other technology generated illustration enhances understanding. Increased use of technology for writing and editing distracts from traditional writing, leading to less attention to text and writing skill. Informal writing using smartphone emails negatively affects clear and sufficient writing.
Good evening. I'm Ankita. I'll be talking about the conclusion. Information technologies are taking center stage in the modern writing. This trend, which will continue to evolve in the coming decades, has introduced new forms of language like NetSpeak. Such adaptations typically do not follow the grammatical and the syntactic rules of written English or and unfortunately uh, permitting into formal schoolwork. The negative impact on writing skills is related to the technology uses, not the technology itself. Parents and caregivers need to recognize such potentially negative impacts and promote means to safeguard their children's interest as technology becomes more pervasive in the everyday life. For educators, the additional challenges in incorporating new technologies into the learning process while avoiding the negative impacts on the students. Next slide, please. Further studies and future scopes. Further studies are needed to understand the language development in the context of new technologies. Furthermore, the current English writing curriculum must be reevaluated in light of the ubiquity of the technology in all aspects of our lives. Additionally, institutions should conduct research to determine how new technologies can be used to teach information literacy and new types of writing skills that are emerging with the online era. These are the references. Thank you.